Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our 6Nations series. And I've got a very special guest with me today. We were once teammates at British Airways Rugby Club. We toured New Zealand together. I think it was over 25 years ago. And he's my favourite French rugby person. It's Jerome Moisan.
All
Jerome,
right,
how are
Tim.
you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. Good memories, including some memories we've probably both forgotten.
Absolutely. And as you can probably tell by the name, the accent, and the headwear, we are here to talk about the French team today and how they're shaping up for this upcoming Six Nations. So, Frenchie, why don't you tell me, give me a little rundown, like of the last 12 months for the French team, how they did in the last Six Nations and how they've gone since then.
Yeah, so there's no easy, simple answer to the one. It's actually a mixed bag because French rugby feels great about the health of club rugby, right? Toulouse, Bordeaux flying. They won the Champions Cup last year. 5 clubs qualified for this rounds of knockouts. Um, so the results are good, the crowds are big, in first and second division. So good media coverage, we get lots of good players. It's the reverse of the football Premier League, where the best players in the world come to England. In rugby, a lot come to France. Like there's probably half of the England team playing in France. Courtney Lowes, Johnny May in second division, not even first division. Farrell, everybody's falling in love with Jack Willis, French people don't often fall in love with English rugby players. The last one was Johnny, and Willis is achieving that feat, captaining Toulouse, ribbons done well at Toulon, etc. So anyway, the club rugby fantastic. The national side, if we're talking about 2024, the year was dead on the first day, opening day of the Six Nations, when France lost at home to Ireland in Marseille. So it was always going to be difficult with the hangover from the World Cup. Always going to be awkward because none of the games, for the first time, I don't know, certainly in my life, that the games were not played in Paris because the stadium was being prepared for the Olympics. And so, yeah, didn't get out of the starting blocks. And then, so the Six Nation, you could just say, was laborious. Nobody can really remember anything. And then, of course, France was missing Dupont on top of that because he was practicing for sevens. So that made it tough. Then the autumn international, different kind of people were missing. Entamac was missing, certainly. So another big part of the team. Ramos did well. There was the kind of controversy why Jalibert wasn't playing. So anyway, they got through the games. They beat New Zealand, which is still a good it's still a good thing, but the play wasn't phenomenal. So the year, to summarize, club rugby, great health. National side, they've got an amazing pool of talented players, but they've only won one title 2 years ago, so there's a few grumbles. And then the icing on the cake was winning gold at the Olympics in sevens. So overall, pretty good year, but it's certainly leading up to Six Nations, where we'll be in better shape. Purely just
Yeah.
having Dupont and Tamac in the same team, which we haven't had for 2 years, will be a good thing.
Yeah, I would say that would be a good thing. Just digging into the French psyche a little bit here. It's so interesting the way you said like the year was dead on the first day, because like as a Brit, that's a kind of an opinion we probably have of the French, that if it doesn't go well at the start, then they just kind of give up. Is that correct?
Well, it's correct on two fronts. The first one is, French psyche is probably a little bit fragile. So if the first one doesn't go well, they're certainly soul searching, and it's not completely like that anymore, because in the past they also included players being dropped after one average game, whereas Galtier, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of the things he does that people don't agree with, but he gets consistency of play in key position. You're 8, you're 9, you're 10, you're 15. You know who's going to be barring an injury. And then the second thing around the psyche was, it was the big party thing. It was in Marseille, which is always loud, and so if you can't play in Paris, you play in Marseille. And it was against, who were supposed to be the big rival for the title, and it was the first game after the World Cup, and the gâteau fell flat. And then after that, I mean, of course, beating England, is always a good thing that can, make an average Six Nation good, but it wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. I think France drew in Italy or something, so it was very average vintage. Considering also, and I'm sure we'll talk about this year, France every year either hosts England and Ireland at home or plays both of those fixtures away. And France hasn't won the Six Nations since 2007, I think, in the odd year. So last year would have been a good opportunity. And again, remember the psychological pressure of having hugely talented team who's only won one title, the Grand Slam a couple of years ago, and so there's a little bit of pressure creeping in uh, about that aspect of it. But we're feeling good. The squad is in good shape, so we're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, let's dig into the squad. Now, I've been trying to follow developments over the last week or so, and I found it almost impossible. It seems to change on a daily basis. Like, you got 42 players, and then some go out, some come in. There's been, well, this is nobody's fault, but there's been a huge amount of injuries as well in this French squad. So it seems like players are coming and going all the time. Have you got a firm grip on who's in the squad and who isn't at the moment?
Yeah, but if you backtrack a little bit, I think the issue or the opportunity is even broader because the French season is so long that quite often, and now officially, we send a B team touring the southern hemisphere, which is not very popular. So we send youngsters to Argentina. We're sending a B team to New Zealand in the summer. So they're not quite big, but quite frankly, the French final, which is usually, it will involve Toulouse and or Bordeaux or La Rochelle, which is probably 2/3 of your French team. They play the final. The plane's already departed, so you can't. So you always blood another 15, 20 new caps on those kind of tours, which is good for long-term succession planning, bench strength, etc. Then the point about the 42. So because we don't have central contracts like Ireland or even England a little bit, so there's negotiations about who can come on a training camp. But where it falls apart is, for example, so this week there were supposed to be 42 to plan, but Sunday night, because of TV, you had La Rochelle Toulon. So suddenly those people can't. There's no point inviting them because by the time they travel and they've done their warm down, they will have missed the full contact session on the Tuesday. So yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but that's fine. That's French. We're used to it. But the team is very settled. If it's settled and it's got a lot of depth. So if we take the key position 9 and 10, we know who is going to be. And if we had a problem, we've probably got 4 amazing 9s. You've got Dupont, if he's out, Le Garec, if he's out, Le Queue, if he's out, you could probably pick Serin, who plays amazingly well for Lyon at the moment. He's not even in the squad. Likewise, at 10, you've got Entamac, and if he can't, Ramos did great in the autumn, and then you've got Jalibert, probably the most exciting 10, and Dupont can play at 10 as well. So those are covered. You've got Ramos at fullback, the wings, if they're fit, the 2 from Bordeaux, Penaud, Bielbarret, and then you've got exciting ones in the center. So the back division should be flying, should be doing well. Back row, likewise, we've got abundance of riches. So we've got a few injuries. Jelonc, I think, is out. We've got Rouma is uncertain, but still, you'll still have Cro, Boudéan, Aldret. Very, very good back row. Where we're a little bit thinner on the ground is the front 5, where the names on the team sheet on Friday will look very familiar and intimidating, but they're not fit. They're just returning from injuries, from several successive injuries. So Antonio and Bai, who knows, are they going to last Are they going to last the usual 50 minutes? Are they going to break down after half an hour, or are they just going to run out of energy after half an hour? And second row, we're losing also a bit of good hands with Flamand, losing big power with Tuilagi, Big Tao, not sure if he's there. So the danger for France will be if they're unfit and or injuries in the front five, we could be very bare in the last half hour of games, and then set pieces could start to become complicated. But every squad's got injury problems, but by and large, it's a settled squad. They're experienced, and they've got the experience of playing together. So there's no excuse from that point of view.
Yeah, and if there's one team in the Six Nations that can handle a whole load of injuries, it's the French for sure. Just some other names of people that are injured at the moment. Olivon, Dante, I think, is not even a chance of being selected. Fiku, Tatafu, and Wardy as well, the Lucid. So a ton of people there. And then I think fit but not selected, people like Cameron Woki and Makalou as well. So there's so many players, but the one person I want to talk about back into the fold after a long time away is Slimani, who's been plying his trade over in Leinster now, and he is playing very well and rightfully back in the French squad, I think.
Yeah, well, he's actually been sent home, so he's not in the match day 23. I think, genuinely, there were concerns around a few of the props. So I think in the 42 they called 8 or 9 props. I'm not making this up. And he was called probably largely on merit because he'd done okay. But there's also a little bit of not even games, of genuine espionage. He's in Leinster. Leinster, give up to one player is Ireland. So I'm sure they gave him a few bottles of wine and asked him to tell us stories, tell us stories about how you prepare to engage or whatever props do. But no, look, it's nice to see him come back. But on the other hand, it does point to a small area of weakness in, when I talk about abundance of French players, it's probably 50, 60 really good ones. Prop is one position where, little bit like England and maybe Ireland, there's not, you don't have 28-year-old with 50 caps. You either have your 35-year-old with 100 caps or your 22-year-old. And so there's a few England that are very exciting, but they're unproven. Likewise in France, you've got Colombe, giant guy from La Rochelle. Is very destructive, but he can't really scrimmage, which for prop is French prop at that is not great. He came on against Leinster in the group game of Champions Cup, conceded 2 or 3 penalties in a row, and so that's what I mean by, overall I'm optimistic about Six Nations, but tight games, your front five has changed and you've got inexperienced or not very fit people. That could be a problem.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the wingers. And again, this was a little bit of in the squad, out the squad, not quite sure what's going on. Bill Biarri looked like he was potentially injured last week, but now he's back in the squad. But Penaud was in the squad and now he's injured and out. But talk to me about those guys, because Penaud at the moment, well, they're both playing ridiculously good rugby.
Yeah, I mean they're flying at the moment. Penaud got double hat trick in his last game. I think it was against Bristol, maybe. Neither injury concerns are serious. Biel Barret, he's got a problem with his ear, which gives him vertigo when he doesn't hear really well. So he was withdrawn out of precaution, but he'll be there. He'll play. Penaud is got a problem with his toe so it's a small problem. He won't play this weekend. He'll be back for England. Had it been England, he may have played. I don't know. So they've got the young guy from Pau on the wing. That's the one. That's the one. I don't know him really well, but he's impressed. I think on the summer tour they could have had Lebel from Toulouse, and they always have the opportunity to move Mofana, the center. So he's going to start at 12, but there's a lot of multidisciplinary players. Bielbarré can play fullback, Ramos can play 10, Dupont can play 9, 10,
Everywhere.
center, which is good because what it means is that they can go with a 6-2 bench fairly comfortably. And some of the back rows are, Boudéon has played center before. So it's, you never want your disaster planning to come into play because you'd rather not have the disaster, but I think they'll be okay. So exciting. Yeah, really exciting backs, almost exclusively Toulouse and Bordeaux if the first team's there. And yeah, we should see a few tries.
Yeah. Talk to me about that as a French supporter. When the French get into that flow, when they get the power runners going and the offloads coming, and then suddenly they're just powering through a team and then spreading the ball wide. What's it like for you as a Frenchman watching that happen?
Oh, you just enjoy the noise in the stadium. You can just see that you start the attack from the car park 20 meters behind your own try line. So it's wonderful to watch. But it's cultural, and sometimes it's a cliche that for a long time it was a cliche that actually in practice wasn't really there anymore. Now the fascinating point now is that we've got the players to play that kind of rugby. Toulouse, Bordeaux, they play that every weekend, take risk, offloads, all of that. The problem is the coach Galtier is not like that. He's asking them to play a game of, you don't want possession in your half, so a lot of kicking, kind of low risk rugby, and so there's a little bit of tension. Again, coming back to the lack of trophy for what is essentially a golden generation, and the knives are being sharpened. That if he doesn't win the Six Nations this year, despite a lot of stars aligning, they will question if there's a mismatch between the player that you got at your disposal and the game plan you're giving them. So that'd be really interesting. But I will say this: the new rules coming into play, I'm pretty excited about those. The main one being the escorts that are not allowed to block. People chasing the box kicks. So what that means, and Borthwick spoke about it well, is he said he's going to multiply by 2 or 3 the number of broken play situations. And that's what the French back 3 love. So, all of the things being equal, if there are 3 times the opportunities to run chaos from deep, that should be a net positive. So even if the game plan is kind of restrictive and like you don't play once you're in your own half of set pieces, they won't resist the temptation to run if the opportunity is there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think tactically that could be something that France really benefit from in this tournament. I think the other teams will recognise that and want to do it, but I don't think anybody's got the capability quite as the French do.
Well, the 2 other angles on this, which are not as positive as the first one. So I think net is still a positive. However, those big box kicks that are not caught well by the French back 3 is what caused South Africa to beat us in the quarterfinal. Their 3 tries were from box kicks that our back 3. We don't have 3 Freddie Stewarts. If they've got the ball, they're great at running, but they're average at catching the ball. So although some teams may be put off by kicking because they're worried if it's too long, France will run back at them, Aragon, they'll still back the accuracy of their kicking, and France being average at the receiving part. And then the final one, which is maybe a bit more subtle, but it goes back to my earlier worry about the front 5 being not only massive, but just returning, so not full fitness, if you've got more broken play, you've got more ball in play minutes. So certainly, if a game, top 14 games are quite slow. The ball in play is, I don't know, whatever, 25, 28 minutes. International rugby is a bit more. With that rule, if suddenly ball in play against Ireland, England gets to 35 minutes, those big guys just returning from injuries will get tired and they may leave, a few gaps. So that's the other side of the coin that new rule that said, is largely positive. There's that little concern.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, how do you see the tournament panning out for France? Am I right in saying they're playing at home, then away, and then finish at home?
Well, I don't look too much past the Ireland game. So France doesn't typically start well. So Wales at home is about as good as we could have hoped. Because I think Italy and Scotland will be stronger than Wales this year. So hopefully that should go well. And then it's England, and again, in terms of crescendo, I think playing England is better than playing Ireland. But obviously it's one of those years where France has to play away in Twickenham and Dublin. So I think France can win the Six Nations. I don't think they'll do the Grand Slam. I think they'll lose one of those two games. But I do think, going back to the amazing backs, I think they'll score enough tries that if we join top, we should be able to win on bonus points, or if it's still level on points difference. But I don't think anybody is going to do the Grand Slam this year. So if France was at home, I would have said Grand Slam, but we're not. So there'll be a game along the way that won't quite go to plan. Ireland, they've had a bit of a dip in the autumn. Leinster, they're not quite firing on all cylinder. And England, even if you give them credit for falling on the unfortunate side of narrow games, you can see them winning narrow games now, but it'd be a big move to go from that to Grand Slam. So especially as they have to go to Dublin. So that's my summary prediction. France to win it, no Grand Slam, but on points or bonus points.
There we go. Well, we'll see at the end of the tournament. That was, very interesting. I think France are definitely favourites for the tournament, but I think there are going to be quite a lot of close games in this, which could go either way. And that's the beauty, I think, of the Six Nations, particularly this year. I really feel like this year could be very competitive.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't spoken about Italy or Scotland, but Benetton Treviso just beat La Rochelle. Now, La Rochelle is a bit like Leinster, dropped off a little bit this year, but they've won the previous two European Champions Cup, and they lost in Italy fair and square. They'd sent a big team. So Italy, I don't quite know who they're playing where, but they've definitely got the potential. Scotland, yeah, if they hadn't lost that centre, you could have definitely seen them in the top two, which incredibly enough, they haven't been in the top two for something crazy like 10 years or something. But yeah, I don't think there won't be a procession of one team, France or Ireland or even England, getting the Grand Slam, which is great. That's what makes it all interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, people at home, that's what we think. But what do you think? Are there any key points we missed? Any players that you think will play a massive role for France that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments down below. We'll both join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there if you don't mind. And it just leaves me to say, Frenchie, thank you again so much for your time. That was really cool.
Pleasure. See you at Twickenham.
Absolutely. Okay. And people at home, you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And do not forget to get out and play.